good. You're more lively than the one this morning. We were led to believe the title of this panel was, Is the Smartphone Dead? Who believes that? One person. Who's a headline writer for BuzzFeed? Same person. Lovely. Thank you. So let's get rid of that topic. Yes. What comes after the smartphone? What replaces the smartphone? How do we move on from what, quite frankly, everybody sees as a 5.5-inch sheet of glass in their pocket that doesn't do enough anyway? Three companies here who believe they have an idea of what happens next. I'm going to ask each of them very briefly, first of all, to introduce themselves before we get into the meat and potatoes of the panel. Ari, let's start with you.
Ari Roisman.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Ari.
Aaron. It's on the same.
Aaron, it's all you.
Go for it.
Stage left.
Please.
Okay, so I'm Aaron Grant, one of the co-founders of a company called Thalamic Labs, and we make a product called the Myo Gesture Control Armband, which lets you wirelessly control any of your technology using natural hand gestures and motions. And we think going forward, this is super interesting that we explore new ways of interacting with technology, because that's what's going to actually drive technology forward.
Okay, other Ari.
Ari Roisman, co-founder and CEO of Glide. We built the world's first and only live video messenger. So tap a big button, talk. Within a second, the recipient can watch that video live. If they're not there, they can watch it later. It's kind of like a video walkie-talkie. You can think of it like a next generation video messenger where you can actually communicate like a person using your voice and your face.
And thankfully, we don't have three people called Ari on stage. Otherwise, it would just get really confusing.
I'm Jesse Robbins. I'm founder and CEO of Orion Labs. We make wearable heads-up voice communication services for groups. We make a product called the Onyx today, which is shipping. I'm wearing it now. You just press a button, talk using the power of your voice to people over any distance, over any network, with any device.
So if I tap that button now, can I get through to your mum?
You can if she is on and awake. I don't actually know what time it is in Lake Tahoe.
Okay, if you get this wrong, we're pressing the button. Okay, first off, can we agree that the smartphone is not dead? I mean, how integral is the smartphone to each of your platforms, first of all? Do we still need this sheet of glass?
Yeah, so the smartphone's not dead, but I do think the monopoly is about to end. We are all way too connected to this big thing that sits in our pocket. You know, the battery doesn't get through a day. And I think with devices like the Apple Watch and Android Wear.
And the Onyx.
In the same sentence. Once these devices become untethered and they have their own SIM cards, which is inevitable, that will be happening very soon. For the first time since the advent of the smartphone, you're going to be able to leave your phone at home. And the core utility of that device as a notification center, as something that you can query, as a communications device, that will exist on your wrist, on your face. Maybe you'll wear something.
Jesse, same question. It's still there. It's still part of it. So where does it fit in with Onyx?
So I think that there's a couple of pieces. So first of all, the way that humans communicate is usually using our voice, our body language. Being able to communicate at a distance is a relatively new concept for us, about 100 years old. And we follow a pretty predictable path when we go from the first Morse code systems through to then the first telephone, and then over time, richer and richer interfaces. So,
as I demonstrated the piano.
Typing with 10 fingers on a
Right.
keyboard at desk, now 2 fingers
Right.
on this thing that sits in your pocket.
So the real question is, how do people want to live? Do they want to live like this, staring down at a screen, or do you want to be up in the world, connected and experiencing life's great moments? And I think what's exciting about what each of our companies does is we're each trying to solve the problem of communication in a way that gets you beyond just staring at a screen. So I'm excited about that, and I think that whether the smartphone becomes a hub or an interface that you use to configure other things, what the future really holds is different interfaces, specialized interfaces for special experiences.
Aaron, what does Thalamic see then, where the smartphone is going to be in this wonderful future of wearables?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is really the interfaces, as you were just saying. And it's one thing to take a whole bunch of wearable devices, stick SIM cards in them, stick some computing power in there, and make them able to do things. But unless you have a really easy, good way for humans to interact with that technology, it's not going to go anywhere. So over the past 5 years, you've seen smartphone screen sizes explode from, originally you had cell phones that were huge, and then they shrunk down to these tiny little things, and then, we could have kept on going.
And then we discovered we could watch videos of kittens on them.
Exactly, and we could do all these other things other than make...
Just in case my mom's listening.
Other than make just phone calls, and the reason you need that big screen is so that you can actually interact with all of these experiences. You can get content from the phone, but also you can do things like type. But imagine, how are you going to do text entry on a wearable device? That's a really interesting question. Voice control, one possibility, but it's not always the best to be seen kind of walking around talking to yourself.
Are you pitching for next year's panel already? Which is a fun idea. Right, as I said, we've got 3 companies here that have got their own idea of what is going to come next. So we're just going to drill into each company, as it were, and of course your competitors can also now try and upset you as well. So who'd like to go first?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're competitors.
Not at all.
I think what we're all doing...
we're all so American and happy and lovely. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so your best friend who stole your girlfriend at high school prom is going to talk to you about your company. Ari.
So before we jump into that, maybe we'll just take a step back and look at the history of human computing interaction. Started with Morse code, at least as a communications protocol. Then we had punch cards.
Right, these are all text, right? This is all text formats.
Right? Then we had typing with 10 fingers on a keyboard at your desk. Then you could do that from a laptop. And now we type with 2 fingers, usually our thumbs. We're using a keyboard. Why are we using a keyboard? Siri, Google Voice, Alexa, Cortana. These are all glimpses of the future of human computing interaction. We will communicate with computing in the same way that we communicate with other people. And if you take a step back and you think about it, it's quite intuitive that as Moore's law impacts computing, the power, the size, the profile, we will be communicating with other people, wherever they are in the world, in a very similar way that we communicate as people when we're in the same room. There's a reason we're all sitting here as people with, we're here in real life. This is not a virtual world, right? People fly from one end of the world to the other to meet in person and look each other in the eyes and communicate face to face. The vast majority of what we communicate is through body language and through facial expression and through tone. Yet the vast majority of our communication today is through text. There's no tone, there's no body language, and there's no facial expression. That will change. My Twitter profile says, I'm hustling to make digital communication more human.
I have a question for the audience. How many of you have had a peak moment, a best experience of your life while staring down at a screen? How many of you have looked at a screen and said, oh my goodness, this is like one of the best moments of my life?
The new Star Wars trailer does not count. People.
I don't know, that might count. All right, how many of you have had peak moments, best experiences of your life, looking at a person, talking to a person, being there with that person? I hope it's pretty much everyone, right?
Yep.
And so what excites me about what's happening now as we think about the differences between the smartphone revolution and what it's enabled is we're talking about more moments where people can communicate in their best ways, their best moment, the most powerful and profound things that they are able to express and connect with other people. We don't build communication tools in order to become less connected. We build them to become more connected. And I think one of the unfortunate parts of the smartphone revolution has truly been that we've spent so much time watching cat videos and other things when we could be experiencing the world around us. My inspiration behind Orion and this product, Onyx, is I'm a volunteer firefighter by training, although I build companies and I'm an infrastructure guy by background. And the inspiration was when working as a firefighter or as an EMT, I couldn't look down at a smartphone and be like, okay, well, I'm going to unlock it and then, boop, okay, yeah, send me the water, right? That's not going to work. You can't spend 30 seconds doing that. And again, what I think is so exciting about all the companies that are starting now, where we are building on top of the smartphone as a platform, is that every single one of those is getting to that visceral connection, where it's, I just want to do something as simple as pressing a button and talking to my mom, hi mom, or something as complicated as saying to a firefighting crew, hey, I need more resources.
I'm gliding my mom right now.
Right. So
You
that
can get bandwidth?
yeah, that's what I think matters most about this shift. And it's not, is the smartphone dead? It's that we are changing and making something entirely new built on that smartphone platform that I'm incredibly grateful to be able to build on top of.
So I think it's really interesting to say that the way that people and technology interact in the future is going to be very similar to the way that people interact with other people right now, and I think that's true in some cases, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that that's true in every case. There's lots of times where you were probably doing something on your computer and it didn't work the way you wanted it to, and you say, stupid thing, I wish it would just know what I want it to do. And it's times like that where, if it was just another person, the experience would be a lot better. But if you're, say, entering data into a spreadsheet to do some mathematical calculations or something like that, it's way easier to just go and enter that data into a computer with a keyboard than it is to try and, say, dictate that to someone and get them to do the same thing. So I think, there's cases where you want to interact with computers like people, and we have a long way to go in that area. But there's also cases where interacting with computers in the very kind of explicit way that we do today has huge benefits, and computers are good at certain things, and taking advantage of those things often or sometimes requires that kind of explicit interaction. So I think it's really important to find a balance between those two things. Right now, we're much too far to the very explicit side. You need to tell the computer exactly what you want it to do, and if you get the instructions slightly wrong, you're probably not going to get what you were looking for. But there's a long way to go there.
It seems like specialized experiences require specialized interfaces, and the more special you can make them, the better those are. If it's text entry or data entry in one environment, or control of something very discrete, that's one scenario. If it's communicating at a great distance with somebody where you want to see the expressiveness of their face, it's a different scenario. If you just want to be able to call out at a distance, like with the power of your voice, it's a different interface. And each one has a place and a purpose. It just wasn't possible now to be able to bring those into so many environments and bring them into the physical world. You were tied to a desk or to your laptop.
And I think that's the really interesting point about where we are in technology right now, is that we're not limited by the same things that we used to be. We're not, sure, you can always make your CPU more powerful, you can always have more memory, better network connectivity, especially in here. But we're not nearly as limited by those things anymore as we were, say, 5, 10, 20 years ago. And I think we're way more limited by the interfaces, and we now have the tools available to go and explore these new technology, these new ways of interacting with technology, and just make all of these ways in which we use technology so much better because we can do that.
One of the questions I get asked a lot about Orion is, well, what about in places where there isn't enough cell coverage? And the question that I always ask is, well, are you betting on a world where there's more connectivity or less connectivity, right? I'm betting on a world where there's more connectivity, even though sometimes in certain places it can be a little challenging. But in general, it's I was a task force leader during Hurricane Katrina some years ago, and it was so much easier to bring internet connectivity to people than water, right? Like water required us to move and purify and do other things, and suddenly a van showed up and we had satellite connectivity in a disaster zone that provided internet. And we just see this getting richer and richer and richer. And so that makes your app possible, right? That makes my app possible. That makes the types of of advanced interfaces that you're describing possible in ways that get better and better over time.
And this is where the smartphone came in, because it's the smartphone that's driven that explosion of you can be anywhere and be connected. You know, it's in a couple of years' time, it's not going to be special that you can Instagram from the top of Mount Everest. K2 might be a different matter.
Right.
But to me, Jesse, obviously you've got the Orion sitting there, nice and obvious. Ari and Aaron, I'll get it right by the end of the panel.
Aaron? Ari.
Nothing visible, no big glowing lights on you. So, Aaron, where are you and Thalmic taking this future of wearables then?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, so right now our product, the Myo armband, is a slim kind of sweatband-like device, which unfortunately I'm not wearing right now. But you can wear it under your clothes, just on your forearm here. And one of the reasons we chose that location is that lots of people already wear a watch on their wrist. They wear, fitness trackers or other types of devices, and we've got a whole bunch of different things here. All these wristbands for the conference, and one thing that's, this is probably obvious to say, but people aren't just gonna, start waking up in the morning and suiting up with all these different types of devices, let alone remembering to charge them all. And so the really interesting thing is,
special kind of geek to wear all this.
Yeah. So the really interesting thing is, how to deal with that problem. There's benefits to having wearable devices around different parts of your body, and one of those is the data that you can get from those. But it's not necessarily something that's going to work in terms of integrating into people's daily habits, and that's really the key. If people are going to start using wearables, it has to become a habit. Right now, picking up your smartphone, putting it into your pocket or wherever you put it in the morning is probably a pretty well ingrained habit, and you'll realize right away that something's off if you leave the house and you don't have your smartphone. And so we need to make wearables in such a way that you can build those same types of habits with them.
So I'm wearing a supercomputer on my wrist, and I love being able to think of something and then just say, "Hey Siri," and then ask a question, rather than having to pull my phone out of the pocket, open up an app, type something in. Oh no, it didn't work. Backspace. Type it again, right? That's incredibly powerful. And this device doesn't have a keyboard. So when I'm receiving notifications on this device all day long, which is very convenient, right? Instead of feeling my phone buzz or hearing it beep and having to retrieve it from my pocket, that can happen here. And I get a notification. Well, what do I do with that notification? If I can't act on that notification, how valuable was it that I could receive a notification on my wrist? So when that notification comes in, it makes a lot of sense that instead of pulling my phone out of my pocket or trying to dictate something with the accuracy of voice recognition, I'm just going to tap and talk. I'm going to tap and talk. And then whoever I'm communicating with, wherever they are in the world, they can receive that message in real time. And it's only a matter of time until there's a camera here. There'll probably be multiple cameras here and get a 3D image of my face, right? This is what science fiction has been imagining for over half a century. Dick Tracy, the Jetsons, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's happening.
Cool, you've won the bet of getting second Star Wars reference in. Congratulations, right?
I'm going for Star Trek myself. I'm a fan of both.
Okay, so thank you all very much for coming.
I think the most interesting thing that that we see, and what he's describing and what you've described, and what each of the products do and all the various products to come are likely to do, really is in shifting that interface. And the thing that each of us came here to solve, and what we talked about in our prep, is we're trying to make the world that you're operating in, the world that you're experiencing, a richer and better one by providing that just right interface at just that right time. So I think there's a couple of bets that happen. So first is smartphone ubiquity, which shifts the power of compute, shifts the way in which you consume and get notifications and data from the network to the edge of the network a lot of the time. And that's really what the smartphone is about to do for wearables, and others. I definitely agree that you're just going to tap and talk to groups of people at any distance. I think one of the most exciting things that isn't represented here really is that one of the people that you're going to talk to, or a group of the people you're going to talk to, really are intelligent agents like Siri or Cortana or others. And that's the, I think, next frontier for where all of our apps go, is really intelligently presenting information for you at just the right time so you remain in that moment.
Okay, we've got about a minute left because we've got permission to do a very slight overrun. Ooh. So, if we were to come back in 2 years' time, what would be the hashtag for your company's success?
Aaron?
Well, if I told you that, I'd be revealing all of our secrets. So
These people have paid a lot of money to hear all your secrets. Just give us just one. Remember, we're not in competition here. We had that conversation earlier.
I mean, so we make an input device right now. We're, as a company, Thalmic Labs, we're interested in a lot more than just input devices, and we are very interested in the question of what comes next in computing after the smartphone.
So you're going to tell us what happens next in 2 years' time.
I'll tell you in 2 years.
In 2 years.
In 2 years.
I told you we would get the panel sorted out for the next one. Yeah. Other Ari, you've had thinking time now.
Be real. I think a lot of us are hiding behind text. We're not comfortable communicating with our faces and with our voices. And I think once the technology is there and the networks are there, and there's a deep thought, but it's actually easier to tap and talk and to send a live video message than it is to send a text message. And the way I would send that text message would actually be through dictation. You, the recipient, maybe it's a mother, maybe it's a significant other, if they receive a text message and they know that you sent that from your wrist and you dictated and you chose not to send your voice and not to reveal your tone, and they know that you chose not to use the camera and to hide your face, that will be considered evasive. Social convention will evolve, and social norms will shift, and the expectations of digital communication will become more human.
Jesse?
We'll know that Orion succeeded when it's just a part of your life and it doesn't need a hashtag. So I would say Orion Everywhere would be the hashtag, but ultimately as these interfaces shift and become a part of our lives, they just become a part of your life in the same way that you don't need a hashtag smartphone.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for your time. The smartphone is not dead, it's just resting, or it's using a REST API, we're not quite sure. Contact details for myself and everybody on the panel can be found in the Web Summit mobile app. Just hit any of these names in the speakers and you will find links. That includes the email, the Twitters, and the website addresses. We'll all look forward to your further input. Go out and enjoy yourself in Dublin tonight. Be safe, be sane. We'll see you all back here tomorrow at the Web Summit. Thank you all very much for your time. Good night.